in Chicago, Illinois, one of the greatest wrestling cities in the world. I know you're in a great wrestling city wherever you are. If you're watching for the first time on Facebook Live, shout out where you're watching the show from. If you're one of our faithful viewers or listeners on the podcast side, don't forget to share the link, because if you don't share the link, you stink. This is WrestleZone Daily or Nightly, whatever you want to call it. I say we stick with the daily. Robert DeFelice, where WrestleMania was supposed to be this year. What do you think? Do we start going with nightly or do we go with daily?
Well, it's still during the day of Monday, so we're still in the day. We're still daily.
There's some truth to that. Yeah. All right. So if you're with us for the first time, tell us what you thought of tonight's Monday Night Raw. We'll get into all the breaking news story over the weekend. Bad news for WWE or some good news for WWE, depending on how you see it. The XFL is no more. It is officially no more. WWE is getting a big financial hit from the coronavirus and all the different stoppages with that. And we'll get into that and so much more. It will be a WWE heavy show. But let's get into the big story, the one that broke today. And you certainly have some perspective on this down in Florida. They've had a stay-at-home order here for, what now, almost 2 weeks?
Correct.
All right. So there was some debate about how WWE was able to continue having an essential, as they deemed it essential, I'm going to use that word a lot here, an essential production crew and an essential roster of wrestlers to film episodes of Monday Night Raw as well as WrestleMania. And they did that all the way up to when that got put into place at the end of March, just about 2 weeks ago. And then for about a week after that, it's debatable as to when WWE filmed the most recent episode of SmackDown, but they had all of that Raw. They had weeks of television, about 2 weeks of television, and WrestleMania, filmed a whole bunch of it. And so some people were debating about how WWE was going to continue to march on, because we found out over the weekend that they were going to do groups of tapings. They're going to tape 5 weeks of each of their weekly TV shows. There'll be a lot of content there. And specifically, NXT would be filmed at Full Sail University, and Raw and SmackDown would be filmed at the Performance Center. As it looks like that's a spot we're going to be in. I don't see arenas across the country opening up anytime soon, even in May. And that's a whole other story. But then the course changed at some point over the weekend, Friday into the weekend, and WWE executives, most people are pointing the finger at Vince McMahon, saying that they've made the move then to go back to broadcasting the episodes of Monday Night Raw and SmackDown as well as NXT live on the air. Tonight's Raw was broadcast live. It was not pre-filmed. A lot of people think it's a lot more risky, especially fans online. And then it continued to get more debate. The question got asked of the Orange County mayor today. He is one that had some influence over WrestleMania and many other things there, and wanted to know what's going on with this situation with WWE. They got asked at a press conference, how come WWE is able to still film? And he said at some point they were deemed non-essential by the governor of Florida and then deemed essential. So tell me, what is the governor of Florida, Richard DeSantis, saying here about WWE filming? Because this has been a big story. Hundreds of people retweeting about it to us on WrestleZone. A lot of people very angry with WWE. A lot of people say, hey, if they can do it, do it. What do you think?
Let's back up here and let's talk Friday. So last week it was reported by multiple sources, including Fightful, PWI, that they're going to tape blocks of content, even through potentially the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. So everything's in the can and everybody can go back home. That was Friday morning. By Friday night, as SmackDown is closing out, Ryan Satin of Pro Wrestling Sheet puts out a report saying they're going live starting with Monday's Raw. Fightful and Fightful Select back that up by saying a very angry Vince McMahon made the edict and a lot of wrestlers are pissed. We get to today where it now comes out from the mayor of Orange County that on a state level it was deemed that they are essential. They have been given essential media pieces of paper that if you're stopped by the police, you can say, hey,
I have one. I have one of those.
You're essential media. You work at the radio station. You know how that works.
I mean, there was a period of time when you and I were broadcasting for almost half of March when Illinois, it was right as Illinois enacted one of the stay-at-home orders. I think we were one of the first major states in the Midwest to do it. And I got one of those. It's not from the Federal Communications Commission. It's from like the central, not the Central Intelligence, but it's like the Central Information Agency. It's a state agency that gave me one.
Yeah, and WWE got deemed essential. The mayor of Orange County said at some point, it was deemed that they wouldn't be essential, but now, after further inspection, they have been classified as essential. And this went even further with a memo coming out saying that all sports or sports entertainment like events with an audience or a production crew at some point can be deemed essential. Now, this
Is that
says,
in Florida?
In Florida. A recent list of essential services in Florida includes employees at a professional sports and media production with a national audience. That includes any athletes, entertainers, production team, executive team, media team, and any others necessary to facilitate, including services supporting such production, only if the location is closed to the general public. Now, theoretically, this opens up possibilities for AEW to go back to Daly's place. This opens up possibilities for Ring of Honor. Essentially, wrestling can continue in the state of Florida. If Impact wants to go back to the Impact Zone, if that is still a thing, it's not. But they wanted to. Listen, it's essential. It's
what is? Remember what was the old meme about old wrestlers from WWE or something?
Well, what is so and so doing in the Impact Zone?
Yeah. What is Impact Wrestling doing in the Impact Zone? Yeah, it was something you could say. Yeah, exactly.
And I've seen both sides of the coin. I've seen mostly the one where people are like, "Oh, this is dumb. How is wrestling deemed essential?" But you know what? The Orange County mayor went so far as to say WWE is like a family, and they'll be keeping themselves contained. And this is combined with the fact that over at Fightful, they broke the news that WWE had a positive COVID case, and then WWE then confirmed to Fightful that they had a positive COVID case. Now, this person is not an in-ring competitor. That's as much as we know. And I just think it is risky, but at the same time, now it's sort of like, hey, y'all, wrestling is free game in Florida.
And also I think this is a state that has a long history, a long, very beneficial history of wrestling being something that comes out of there. Pro wrestling entertainment has a decade. This isn't like, just in the last 10 years they got a couple WrestleManias, and WWE built their facility in Florida, and the Khan family is in Jacksonville, and so there's some power structure there. All right, so this is two. Hey, let me make this point. There's two major companies that have a proven record of performing in the state and being beneficial to the state. All right, so there's that, but people are going to say it's just not safe and you shouldn't be doing it. But I was going to bring this up. No one said this about AEW. No one said this about AEW. But the narrative is Vince McMahon is the devil and he's out to do devilish things. And
I'm going to be real with you though. This sounds like some palms were greased.
So someone got paid off.
How do you literally say we had a conversation saying that they weren't essential, and then after some discussions with the governor, they were deemed essential? Now, let's be real. Rick DeSantis isn't the most. How do I put this? He's not very bright, so he's like trying so hard to open up the state anyway. So I'm sure it didn't take much convincing because he wants.
All right, so. We got fans saying this thing. Daniel Camacho, love that name. Camacho, come on. All right. He says, as they say, money talks. I wouldn't be surprised if Vince, who is Vince? Everyone brings up this Vince guy. Who are they talking about? Paid his way into the shows being deemed essential. Whoever this Vince guy is, he seems to be associated with WWE because everyone keeps tweeting about him like he's a guy they know. But yeah, that's the running joke.
Now, listen, I think it didn't have to take a lot of convincing. For some reason, though, WWE and UFC and AEW. I'm not going to leave AEW out of this. They shouldn't be running
Yeah.
shows either. They have less of an excuse than WWE to be running shows. Yeah, Kevin's face is frozen, but we're gonna keep on rolling.
Am I frozen? Am I frozen? Here, I'll let you go, Robert, and I'll come right back. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Now, my opinion
Keep going, buddy.
is, I don't think these shows are essential. That being said, I think on the wrestling front, once we get past the, God, this is shady, we're getting some decent WWE stories out of it. You know, guys are being pushed that wouldn't necessarily be pushed. Kevin, we don't see your face, but we do see the
hear
slot.
me?
We do hear you.
All right, keep going, buddy. I'll be right with you. I'm working on something. Gotta love the internet, man.
So we've seen guys like Andrade get pushed. Austin Theory is just on Raw now, and that's super cool because that wouldn't have happened. Who's to say if things like that happen if there's just a regular Raw? Now, I'm not saying that makes this better than WWE being safe and doing the right thing, but they're clearly going to do whatever it is they want to do. And hey, Kevin's back.
There we go. Gotta love it. Gotta love the internet, man. Trudging along, yeah. Let's talk about it. So, I mean, you guys, if you're with us here during the show, continue to tell us what you think of this situation. A lot of people were really upset about this. A lot of people really, really upset about this. But you know, WWE had some other upsetting news over the weekend involving something that is connected to them in the XFL, the Professional Alternative Football League, that is no more. We will talk about that. But first, we got to talk about tonight's wrestling show on TV, Monday Night Raw. This was a very formative Monday Night Raw. William T. Wages saying tonight was great. This is the first show where they really went with Drew McIntyre as their champion in a full tilt. He was featured in multiple segments of the show. Something else that was featured in multiple segments of the show, Selena Vega. Her stable was featured in, I counted, in more than 8 segments of television. All right. The first hour and a half featured one of her different wrestlers in multiple different matches. 2 of them, they were successful. Andrade defeating Drew McIntyre in the main event of the show with all of Selena Vega's faction on the outside of the ring. Austin Theory, one of her new pickups. Angel Garza, also successful. Her cutting several different promos and being on commentary for a match. These guys were featured prominently. Now, I know immediately fans are going to say, oh, Andrade got beat, he got chopped out. Drew McIntyre is your new WWE champion. He needs to look like a badass. He looked like a badass tonight. He cut a promo at the opening of the show. He cut a promo in the middle of the show that was like a voiceover that I thought was pretty cool, where he kind of like drove this narrative of the, and it was WWE saying, like, we know we can't be in front of you right now. We know we can't be together, but this creates a different moment for all of us. I like that narrative they gave Drew to nail, and he did it within a voiceover, which is a pre-taped thing, even though this was a live show. I thought it was a very interesting take for WWE to feature that. A really strong main event. Nothing super fantastic, but a lot of great wrestling across the card. A bunch of new matches made. Looks like we're going to get Viking Raiders versus the Street Profits. I enjoyed the show. I thought this was it didn't feel like a long 3 hours of wrestling. And we had 3 Money in the Bank qualifying matches for the women. Nia Jax is in. She defeated Kairi Sane. Asuka is in as well. Who was the third one I'm forgetting? That's slipping my mind.
And Shayna Baszler defeated Sarah Logan.
Oh, can we talk about Shayna Baszler? She broke Sarah Logan's arm. She stomped on it. There was a mistake, and they announced that Sarah Logan won the match, which was weird. But then Shayna just stormed out of there. She really sold getting that arm broken. I didn't even notice they announced the wrong name, and a bunch of people got on the internet about it. But we have all the Raw women qualified for Money in the Bank in just a few weeks. We have the Money in the Bank qualifiers next week. It does feel like there is some trajectory. There's some cohesion. Like there's a straight line here. Like there isn't a bunch of mishigash. You know, with the fresh deck of cards and fresh storylines and new champions, WWE's kind of pulling a good card here positively, and I think it seems like they have some good stuff set up for Money in the Bank. Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre feels like a fresher match than maybe it would have a few months ago.
It does all feel fresh. I like the idea of who qualified for Money in the Bank. I like the focus on the future. Like I said this. You know, these events are going to be remembered for the focus on guys like Ricochet, Cedric, Apollo Crews is in a Money in the Bank qualifier, and a likely win because his opponent is MVP. I don't see MVP being in a Money in the Bank match in 2020. You
No,
know,
I don't. I see MVP is really an agent who's going to sporadically wrestle now. That
and maybe
seems to
he'll
be the role.
manage Apollo.
Yeah.
You don't know. But I like where they're going. I like the names that are being announced for these matches.
Mhm.
I I like the idea that they're being forced to use their younger talent. I know that it's not a whole crop of Austin Theories who are 22 and in the prime of their life, but they're being forced to use names that they wouldn't use otherwise, and I hope that that's something that they keep when they eventually return back to arenas.
They did some continuing maniacal Messiah promos with Seth Rollins, who did not have his disciples tonight. I noted that. And he was featured throughout the show, bringing up crucifixion, bringing up how he's still a Messiah and you need to follow him and keep the faith in him, if you will. Very testy stuff to do the day after Easter. I noted that. And then he attacked Drew McIntyre at the end of the night after Drew was victorious over Andrade. He said by the end of the night you would know that. So there was some kind of foreshadowing, but it wasn't too on the nose to say. At least by the time we got to the main event, it felt like that. Scott George texting here saying Seth Rollins is the next good opponent for Drew McIntyre. Going to really make him look good. Yeah.
You want to talk about looking good? Now, Ronda Rousey stirred the pot all weekend long.
Yes, she did.
And I'll keep this brief because I talked about it all weekend. But Ronda was on Steve-O of Jackass, Steve-O's Wild Ride. Ronda's on there. Ronda says, I love WWE. I love wrestling. I love going out there and doing fake fights for fun. She also said, I got tired of it because F these fans. Like,
yeah.
She also was very open about saying, the fans, they didn't appreciate the fact that I was going out there. So I said, screw it. Now, people got pissed. Nia Jax said, and I quote, if management told me to go in there and make her look good, I would risk my job just to knock her out. Lana said, wrestling's a contact sport. Ronda then replied with, kayfabe is an insult to real fighters. Shayna Baszler followed that up tonight by saying, you think you know what real is? Reality is real. Hashtag FKayfabe. And, I mean, lots of good little digs back and forth over, somebody who we haven't seen since last year's WrestleMania.
So it leads to the question, is Ronda just out there stirring the pot and setting up something for a return? Because she's still under contract with WWE.
I think SummerSlam is a great place to have Ronda Rousey. I've never been more convinced that she is coming back. She did openly say she would do it for short stints or chunks at a time.
She would come back as a part-time status. She doesn't want to do the full.
See, that's the thing. She openly said she had a part-time status and wasn't fond of it because she was doing all the live events. Mm-hmm. I think she would come back for program, almost Goldberg status. Programs at a time.
A Brock Lesnar type deal.
Even less. Programs at a time and then going away.
I also don't think Rousey hates professional wrestling. I don't think she hates
it. She was very blunt about saying, I love wrestling.
But she doesn't love the fans. She doesn't love the fans.
She said, I don't like the fans. The fans are ungrateful. And at first I thought, that's kind of a work. But we are talking about somebody who, when she lost in the UFC for the first time, shut out. She just kind of shut the world out. That's her MO.
Yeah, a lot of people with different takes here. What do you guys think? Shout off what you think of here, Ronda Rousey and her situation. I think this is all shades of reality being worked into something. But when I watched the clip of it, and specifically on Steve-O, because she didn't just say it once, she said it more than once. And she said fake. And that fake is that very controversial word amongst wrestling fans and wrestlers. I saw more than a few fans tweeting about Sarah Logan's industry. Does this look fake to you, Ronda?
That's the worst thing to do because it's the Sarah Logan thing was a work.
It was a work, but it didn't look brutal. It didn't look fake. You know what I mean?
It didn't look fake. Yeah. But I don't like the word fake. I don't like the word because Edge.
Yeah.
and like Paige, and like I kind of agree with the things that Lana said. It's like you can't just say fake when there's all these people who have suffered legitimate injuries.
So,
However,
so you say we get Ronda Rousey by SummerSlam. Stephen Chambers texting here. He refers to Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer as the fountain of misinformation. I don't know if that's exactly true, but Steve says that the prediction for old Papa Dave Meltzer is that Rousey will be back in the mix before WrestleMania in Los Angeles next year.
plans can change.
She is contracted to WWE through 2022. So there is more than enough time. But mind you, we haven't seen her in over a year now. So, something to be said for time made up there. And she's committed to her family. That seems to be the big thing for her. And she also noted she does not need the money. She's not in it for the money.
She's living a farm life now.
Yeah.
Browse the acres, you see,
Mhm.
and they don't need the money. They have enough, and they're just raising livestock.
Yeah, there
They
you
need
go.
the money.
Yeah. And other people with different takes here.
I would like a Brock Lesnar, Ronda Rousey reality show where they're just on their respective farms.
Just hunting stuff, just chasing down animals.
Yeah, like Brock is, farming. Ronda's like they're fighters, but they're also just these.
It's not fighting with my family. It's fighting with my farm.
Exactly. Thank you.
There you go. Yeah, you always have to pun things here. Some more bad news for WWE coming out of this weekend, or rather WWE adjacent news, depending on how you want to view it.
WB news.
It's WWE news. The XFL, the second incarnation of the XFL launched. It was launched under the banner of Alpha Entertainment, led by Vince McMahon. He put a lot of his own money into this. He also had other investors as well, what they call Plan B investors. It was not a publicly traded company. They laid off all of but essential employees over the weekend, essentially shutting the league down, and then publicly filed for bankruptcy. And that information can then be publicly viable. And then it's revealed that WWE as a company owned about 23% of the Plan B stock. So they didn't own like full shares, they owned partial shares. And other people involved with the league also owned a piece of the league. Now, obviously, the league under coronavirus couldn't exist, couldn't persist. Most sports aren't going to last, and it was already a risky venture to begin with. They did have good broadcasting rights. They were on multiple channels, but they weren't, selling out stadiums. But the reviews were good this time around. The reviews for what they were producing on cable TV and broadcast network television as like the second football league was positive this time around. But you just can't survive in some of these uncertain times. I think a lot of people worried about their jobs and maybe starting a league right now. You couldn't have predicted. I don't think you could have predicted something on this scale if you're running a sports league. That's not something out of your league. But a lot of people are critical of it because for months you had WWE head honcho Vince McMahon saying that they weren't one and the same. Then there was some public information that WWE was subcontracting some office and marketing work and different things for the XFL through WWE employees and just WWE workers, and it was there. So there is some, like, as much as people want to say, oh, they lied, and Security Exchange Commissions, you got to sue Vince McMahon.
Hold on.
No. Robert, you got to get Vince McMahon. How many people got their pitchforks out on the internet today with Vince McMahon? I'm gonna
do the Zach Morris timeout because we gotta talk about the fact that every time you jump into like internet complainer mode, you just become Fozzie Bear, and it's just the funniest thing. Okay, time in. Go ahead.
Do you like this voice? People have to understand how evil
waka waka
is. Waka waka waka. Yeah. So. Smarka. That's what it should be. So a lot of people are very angry with it. But the thing is, like, just like with the COVID story over the weekend, we reported it. Fightful reported it and broke the story. The person who had that was tested after the tapings. So, like, they could have been asymptomatic, correct? Right? But there was no proof of that stuff until after they were at the Performance Center. So it isn't like this person was walking around the Performance Center and then found out, oh, wow, So they in WWE deemed that low risk. And then this essential story comes out. It doesn't matter. I mean, people are going to write their own narrative, but the facts say otherwise. Did Vince McMahon at one point say that they weren't the same company. Yes, he started a completely different company and put money into it. But then they started subcontracting things to WWE. I would assume some of that was paid through by stock interest at some point. So technically, it's all above the board. But to other people, it's not, because I need to get that billion, right? We got to go get that billionaire, don't we, Robert?
All right. Outside of we got to chase the old man out with the pitchforks, this sucks for the XFL. Like, they took a risk with their networking strategy and how they were going to do the television shows and spreading out across all these partners. And had it maybe done the full season, they could have lasted. But now it's gone really quickly from, hey, we're going to pause the league, to, hey, it's canceled. We look forward to doing many more in the years to come, to, hey, we're firing everybody and filing for bankruptcy. It's just like brutal turn of events. And it's not like the best look for any company, but this is extremely hard when you're under the microscope that Vince McMahon is under in his everyday life. And it's got to be hard, first of all, and stop me from going down a rabbit hole, but to be a 76-year-old man under a microscope with every decision you make has to be a difficult position to live in, let alone try to function in this world of business.
And well, also another thing with it is, and this is just me, I get that tag of being the pro WWE guy, but I'm really just pro wrestling. And when people go off on him and say, I love this one, that he's out of touch. That, if he was out of touch, then we wouldn't have gotten an XFL. Like, that wouldn't have happened, and it wouldn't have been something he tried. And if he was out of touch, we wouldn't have had a WWE network. If he was out of touch, we wouldn't have had Daniel Bryan be a star, Kofi Kingston be a star, Becky Lynch be a star. So there's all these different things that people want to go off on him about it. But, people come out of Raw. We got fans texting here saying, great show tonight. They enjoyed Raw. But how many of those people are going to say that was a good Raw because of Vince McMahon?
0.5%.
0.5%. And how many people are going to say if this show is bad, it's bad because of Vince McMahon?
The other 99.5%.
All right. So am I making a point here that it's just kind of the narrative that people want to spin
yes,
and put on it?
And I don't think I know that you get that rap for being a pro WWE guy. I don't think it's a secret that people want to take down the monopoly. Anybody who leaves WWE is instantly more over publicly because they have left the machine and they're out from under the machine. But I do feel like when people say Vince is out of touch, he should be. Let's be frank, a 70-plus-year-old man should not be in touch. That's a fair thing to say, I believe. Mm-hmm. And, Vince, he took a bet with his XFL thing. He wanted to right the wrong from his past. Didn't work out. I can only assume that he is now sitting in quarantine in an undisclosed location in Stamford, Connecticut, working on the revamped IcoPro formula because the man is going to be proven right until he dies.
And I think this is probably a bitter pill for a guy like him who is such a monster for competition to swallow. Another thing, I think maybe the success of the Sexton XFL could be that it wasn't as, did people deem it as legitimate as the NFL? But no, it got to hit the point it was supposed to be. Here's football you can watch when the NFL's not on the air. And here's something that's going to develop, and we're going to take it slow. We're going to do football for football's sake and try and give fans of football something else to watch. And it got pretty good reviews, and it got pretty fair ratings. And people could say, and the rights and the era of TV rights being king and other things kind of being secondary, it was a smart time to do it. That's an advantageous move to make. Especially when you look at the TV rights contracts that all the other sports leagues are getting. But Now the game has changed so much. So that leads into, why was WWE doing live TV shows? Dave Meltzer reporting that WWE continued to do episodes of Raw and SmackDown, turning them back to live TV tapings. We talked about this earlier tonight. Is because of something involving with their TV contracts with Fox and USA, saying that they could only do, they have to do a minimum of 49 weeks of live television within the annual year that is deemed for the contract. So that gives them some room to work with to be not live. So there's some mixed reports about that. Even Meltzer says there's some possibility they could have wedged around this and done the pre-tape shows. So we don't know all the facts.
All right, but I'm down to speculate for 5 seconds. That's got to be BS, because you're going to sit here and tell me that a conglomerate. I'll put it to you like this, and I won't go too deep here, but the way people are like, give me the money with this whole pandemic should honestly incite a revolution. Now, that's not a topic for me to cover. That's a topic for Ross, and I advise you to have him on the show one of these days to talk about that. But this thing is sickening. You mean to tell me that, oh, well, Fox is demanding that SmackDown be live. Really, are they?
I don't, you know what, that's the information that's been reported that's out there. And I'm not saying that's verifiable. Because here's another thing. I didn't lay into that because I don't know how truthful that is. There's so much we don't know about this situation. And it's from multiple things. The XFL, all right? We don't know about it from the WWE side of things. There's so much about how All Elite Wrestling had to do their tapings that we do know is that the police tried to stop them from doing it. You know, that they almost didn't get to finish their tapings and had some paperwork put out. And they did it in Georgia.
Tony Khan debunked that and said that, like, that's a regular check that happens at every taping, regardless.
It's a regular check that happens at every taping, but why did the police show up in the middle of the taping?
I imagine because
because I've dealt with an athletic commission. So if this is an athletic commission situation or it's sports legalities, they would be there well before the show started. So when I hear that, I'm not saying that Tony Khan isn't being right. Maybe he's just telling us the amount of information we want to know, just like WWE's telling us the amount of information they want
Can we just establish that wrestling has never, ever, ever removed itself from the carnies?
No,
it never, ever, ever been a business of respectable individuals without any sort of shadiness in their person whatsoever. Like, I'm grateful that we're working, but man, like, we know that this isn't essential. Come on, Kevin.
James, hang on, I'm gonna take my headset off. James Espanto Fernando Tega Hall. James says, "Viva la revolution! Let's go, de la feliz." He supports you. Viva la, the fist up in the air. So definitely a lot of different things going on in the world of wrestling. But I'll say what we got on screen tonight with Raw and the direction they're going into Money in the Bank. I'm on board. It feels like a clean slate, and that's just kind of like maybe circumstantially exciting. But the storylines they did put together, I'm enjoying. I do want to start a new segment with you, Robert. We do questions about everything going on in the world of wrestling. But I've been enjoying what we've been doing on the WrestleZone socials. We did this one recently where we put out the graphics for several classic WCW pay-per-views. WCW. Of course, this was the one-time biggest wrestling promotion in the world. They actually defeated WWE in the ratings for almost 2 years. All right, had a lot of big stuff during the Monday Night Wars, and they created a lot of different pay-per-view events that fans remember, like Bash at the Beach, Starrcade, Halloween Havoc, the Great American Bash. Now, WWE has owned all of these different pay-per-views, and you can watch them on the WWE Network. They've owned everything WCW since 2001. And I love the reaction we got today of what classic WCW pay-per-views would you want to see come back. Now, you could pick 3 from the graphic. It's up on our Twitter, our Instagram, and our Facebook. But I want to know, Robert, if WWE, they've done the Starrcade show as kind of like not a pay-per-view, but really just like a house show and maybe a region that fans from WCW and the Southeast and the Mid-Atlantic were aware of. They brought it back there a little bit, but this fantasy fan question, it's going to be a new question we ask on almost every episode. Tonight's fantasy fan question, what WCW pay-per-view would you want to see revived? You want to see a new version of this. And I got mine, but I want to know yours.
Okay. I have always been of the opinion that Halloween Havoc is a great name for a show. It just is. Now, I understand that you might not want to do that. Maybe it's too gimmicky. So I'm going to say, you know what? Super Brawl is a show that I'm surprised we haven't seen WWE Super Brawl. Or really, a lot of them are just very good. All except Road Wild. Road Wild is crap. But like the rest of them, WWE Spring Stampede, WWE Slamboree. Slamboree is a fun name. It's a fun name for a show. But gun to my head, I'm going Halloween Havoc. What about you?
I'm going Halloween Havoc as well. You could do fun stuff with costumes. You could do fun, overproduced vignettes with the Halloween
Put
stuff.
a guy in an electric chair and try to shock him.
Yeah, maybe we get Tony Schiavone turning into a monster, scaring kids again. You ever seen that one that WCW did?
Well, I hope that's another one of the ones that Cody grabs.
Yeah, but that's another thing is I think you're going to get more of these ideas from All Elite Wrestling, which seems to have a real rock hard boner for bringing back old WCW ideas.
I'm going to take a wild guess and say that is 90% correct.
Let us know if you're watching either on demand or on the podcast. What classic WCW pay-per-view would you like to see come back? A lot of people texting in. Michael texted in and said he would love to see Halloween Havoc come back here. Steve texting in and said, bring back the Bunkhouse Stampede.
No, that's okay.
I don't know what a bunkhouse is. Okay? That is a very specific thing. All right?
I imagine it's a house that all the animals, poop in. They make bunk.
No. Oh, all right. That makes sense. People say Battle Bowl, the lethal lottery. Jay texting this one in.
Battle Bowl, I'm surprised never happened. World War III. Essentially, you have Raw and SmackDown and NXT. The fact that World War III doesn't exist is a little ridiculous. Fall Brawl is a little cheesy. Yeah, there's a lot of them, man.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of different questions here. Go ahead and sound that off to us on all the socials at WrestleZone.com on the Twitter, and a lot of different things here. So a lot to cover. This was a pretty busy weekend in wrestling news.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin, the world is stopping, but wrestling is essential. And we're putting smiles on faces. And I'm going to leave you with this.
You are such a smartass. You are
No. Serious time. Riddle me this. If a smile is on a face and no one is around to see it, are you really essential?
Oh, because wrestling, WWE wrestling is about putting smiles on people's faces. That brings up our most recent episode of WrestleZone Daily. If you haven't checked it out, go back and listen to it. This one has a little bit of an evergreen to it, as Dominic D'Angelo of WrestleZone and myself got into a heated debate about whether or not All Elite Wrestling is taking too many pot shots at WWE to get themselves over in the process. We went into this here, Robert. Did you get to hear it, and what did you think of it?
I think that I would have been the guy sitting here with a bucket of popcorn going, yeah, and Kevin's right, too. They make too much pot shots. And then I would go, yeah, and Dom's right, too, That's fun for the audience.
Yeah.
In conclusion, they both suck.
Oh, yeah. People already booking you and me in some type of bunkhouse stampede match. Matt texting here saying Robert versus Kevin in a hog pin match.
No.
We're going to fight the slop, Robert.
We're going to have a play tube massacre.
What? We're going to fight what? What
you
are
know
you
one of
talking
those McDonald's play tubes?
You mean a play place?
What I call it?
Yeah, it's a play place.
Yeah, what did I call it?
That's a play place. They call it
Yeah,
McDonald's
but
play.
what did I say? Because I clearly didn't say play
You
place.
used like a play tube. Play tube sounds like something very different.
Okay, in my
That's a
defense,
much different part of the internet.
there are tubes that you go through.
There are tubes.
And that's what I was thinking.
We're
I'm
gonna have a
not
match.
thinking of.
No, that's bad. That's gonna encourage children to go in there and fight and roughhouse. And there's no roughhousing allowed in the play place.
That's what you think. You know what I say to those kids? We're in quarantine.
F those kids. That's what you're gonna say.
That's Mad Max Fury Road. Get in there, establish your dominance, and you rule the place.
Chad texting and said they still want this beard versus beard match. You finally growing back your manhood there on your face. It's good there, Robert.
My manhood is not on my face.
Hey, you and me in the play place. I'll put it there, pal. I'll put it there. You and me, pay-per-view. All right, it's gonna be at the Fall Brawl, Halloween Havoc. A lot of people.
Listen, I don't know what wild ride this has taken on, but we will not do a beard versus beard. I'm actually very excited that my beard is growing in. I felt very
back pretty quick, right? It came back in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, you know, it's a good beard. It grows with the strength of many lumberjacks.
All right, I'll get to this question. Mary Kemberling is texting in. She's asking what wrestler got the virus, and she says, "Thanks for responding." Fox News is saying it was a wrestler / entertainer. So
of course they are, because they don't bother to have any of the details. It was an entertainer in the fact that they're all working for an entertainment company, so they're all entertainers. It's not a wrestler. Mm-hmm. That's all we know. Don't worry about it.
And also, there's HIPAA laws, guys. I think everyone needs to understand that there is laws about reporting who does not get these type of things.
Nobody's worried about the rule of law, Kevin.
No, they're wrestling fans. I'm a wrestling fan, so I have the right to everyone else's public or private information. If I like you and you're a wrestler, I deserve to know the name of all of your children and your.
And I deserve to name your children if you haven't had them yet.
Why, if you're a wrestler, why aren't you putting up a poll about what your next born child should be named? I should be able to name your children. I'm a wrestling fan. I bought your T-shirt. You know, like that's their logic now. Sorry, everybody. What do
you mean you haven't named your son Lariat?
Pro wrestling move names. Get down here, Canadian Destroyer. Get down here right now. Finish your dinner. Oh, moonsault? Moonsault? If I hear one more word in the backseat of this car, I'm going to turn this car around.
Listen here, Inzaguri. Get down here.
Inzaguri. Pretty ridiculous here. So what we do know is it was not an in-ring performer. This person was aware of the situation on the 26th, and I believe it was the last day that WWE had taped content before they went on a break going into WrestleMania. So WWE deemed it low risk. And that person has already been quarantined out of it.
Yep.
So that's all we know. It was someone a part of the broadcast staff. There was obviously a bunch of very, very lousy reporting with very big question marks from some very, very bad websites over the weekend who ran with the story that it was Corey Graves and Carmella, that they were the people that had this virus. Okay. So the truth of that is there is zero verification.
There's no truth.
There is no truth to that. Carmella's
you're
fake
wrong.
News.
Okay?
Okay. You're wrong.
You're wrong. If you're gonna
Corey Graves, great guy. Prefer Jim Ross. Like Jim Ross. Wonderful man. Good guy. Good. Corey Graves, the tattoos. Don't get it. Too many tattoos.
If you're gonna be a leaker. I need you to leak factual news. We don't want those fake news that's coming out there. All right?
Nasty question. That is a nasty question. We're having fun here tonight. All right, here's a question. We're late in the show, so we can get to the silly stuff, right? We're allowed. The casuals have already dipped out when we didn't tell them who does and doesn't have a virus, right? Scott, faithful fan of the show, thank you so much, Scott. He says Kevin versus Robert in the undercard of Yummy in the Bank. Shorty, what soda do you drink tonight? You know it's Dr. Pepper. All right, so we have Yummy in the Bank coming up. If you're a first-time viewer or a first-time listener of the show, it is this ridiculous thing that over a year and a half ago spurred out of a joke. All right, a very, very silly joke in late 2018 became a very ridiculous event that you'll be able to watch here with us on our streams on YouTube and Facebook. And you won't, audio-wise, you people are going to have to watch this. This is one thing that doesn't work audio-wise. And it's we take all the fast food mascots and we put them in the ring and they have a wrestling match. We had the Royal Yumble, which was very, very fun. We just did a Royal Yumble back in January. We actually put out a T-shirt for it. And now we're moving on to Yummy in the Bank. Yes. So we will have a Yummy in the Bank the afternoon of Money in the Bank from WWE.
And listen, the way this is going, we're going to end up like with some kind of like paywall exclusive ASMR that is just us eating fast food. Like, this is getting very, 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 very niche. But I will say,
oh my God, it's on pay-per-meal. Robert, this event is going to be on pay-per-meal.
Okay.
You know why it's on pay-per-meal?
Why is that?
Because the hamburgers are their money. The hamburgers are their money, Robert. All right? In this world, the hamburgers are their money. And if you win, you go home with all the hamburgers and the cheese. All right, so the winner of Yummy in the Bank will win a golden coupon in a greasy bag at the top of the ladder. And they will then get
brown bag special.
The brown bag special, yes. And once they cash in that brown bag special, all right, just like when you were a kid in grade school and you got your McDonald's bucks here, when you cash it in, all right, you get a value meal shot at the reigning defending fast food champion. Who
is currently the Grimace.
The Grimace.
However.
The Grimace, one of the sub mascots of McDonald's.
However, at Yummy in the Bank,
yes,
he will be defending against the Gobbledygooker, who won the Fast Food Royal Yumble Part 2 second helpings. And now we're here at Yummy in the Bank 2. Splattatouille. Okay?
This is so... All of this is just built on puns. All of this is just built on just the hardcore people that are now with us 45 minutes into the show. Like, I love you guys, and we're doing this for you, so you better watch this stuff. You better share it. You better have that fan of video games.
I just said Splattatouille. I think it's time. I think I just jumped over a shark.
Yes, you did. You did. Tommy B texting here says the winner should get a box of toilet paper. Sure, why not?
No. This is not Walmart wrestling, okay? This is not Quarantine Rumble. This is not that. This is Yummy in the Bank, sir. These fast food mascots. Listen, you want to talk about UFC Fight Island? All right, we have been putting these mascots in uncharted waters for a year and a half now.
Uncharted waters.
We've been doing it.
We're having a bear fight a clown. Okay, that isn't legal. All right, this isn't this. You want to talk about what we should and shouldn't be able to do? We are literally blowing WrestleZone's marketing budget on putting on these events. So you bet, and also it's on pay-per-meal. Okay, so that's big time. All right, so you know that's big time. All right, and we'll be streaming it live here on Facebook the afternoon, May 10th of the upcoming WWE Money in the Bank pay-per-view. So,
one more question, just because Stephen Chambers is a faithful fan of the show, and
sure.
It does tie into Yummy in the Bank. Is there any truth to the rumors about the cancellation of the WWE 2K21 video game? I will say this. I have watched the videos saying that rumors are that it's canceled. I have reached out to 2K myself. I don't want to run with anything like that, but from what I'm hearing, one way or another, we get a WWE game. It just might not be the traditional 2K. Simulation play 2K game. We will get a game. Whether or not it will be is up in the air. And anything that I do get back from 2K, I will report not only here on the WrestleZone Daily, but check out Fightful and WrestleZone, and those are my plugs out of the way. Look at that, how nice that was. Kevin, I know you're quarantined, so you're not necessarily rocking till your pants are dropping. Maybe you are. I don't need to know.
How do you even know I'm wearing pants?
I don't. But look, let's be real here. The world is robbing us of our ideas. We've been video conferencing for work for 2 years almost.
2 years. So we're
now people want to jump on this. Oh, it's such a unique idea. We did it first. Get in the zone or get out.
Or get out. You can hear me. For the time being, you can hear me. Hopefully you can hear me for a much longer period of time on 101 WKQX. You can stream us. We're alternative rock music like Billie Eilish, like 21 Pilots, like Green Day, like Nirvana. It is a really great ability. You can tune in while you tune out the world, and you pretend to work from home if you're doing that. And if working from home for you is looking for a job, a lot of people are in a tough spot, and we're trying to do some great things for people on 101 WKQX, streaming out of Chicago on 101.1 FM in Chicago. And you can listen to us anywhere in the world on your smart speaker. Just say play 101 WKQX. We're on iHeart, we're on TuneIn, all that good stuff. You can hear me weekends on there. We're also giving away $1,000 stimulus, our own version of stimulus we're giving away. And you can do that at our website, 101wkqx.com. That is a national contest, by the way. You're not just limited to that.
You don't say. Hold on.
Yeah. Oh, you going to type that in? Friends of those that are on air on WKQX are not permitted to enter the contest, Robert.
We're not friends. We are associates.
Are you saying we're not friends so you can enter to win the
that is right.
We're having a lot of fun here, and I hope if you've watched the show or you listen to the show wherever you are that you got to have some fun here too, and I really, really appreciate it here. We'll do one more question. April Cerro texting in here. Any truth to the rumors of the cancellation of next year's WrestleMania 37 at the SoFi Stadium? I'm curious, and so is my friends. Well,
so they're running the vignettes, but I know you and I have seen an article saying that health experts are saying, hey, no concerts until the fall of next year. Yeah. But, I can't fathom right now living another year and a half of this style of entertainment. So I'm going to say no, it's not canceled right now.
No.
And we'll find out.
I would say no. The WrestleMania next year is not canceled. I can tell you that. It's not canceled. Okay. In terms of a live event, they're still promoting and marketing that they will be in Los Angeles next spring. And who knows what life is going to be like. I'll tell you this, everyone who's thinking that you're just going to be able to rush out your door and go to a concert or a sporting event this summer, you are going to be mistaken. Because I don't see that happening. We're going to have to be scaled back to society. And we're going to be also, this isn't like we've defeated this thing. There's no vaccine yet. And also once you get a vaccine, it's not like everyone gets the vaccine in a day either. It's going to take months, if not a year, to get that around the world. So there's that factor too. We just got to hope for the best. At this point, WrestleMania next year is still on. Events for WWE into the summer, late summer period, I would expect are still scheduled to happen. We know that Money in the Bank is not going down in Baltimore, and it will be on the WWE Network, and we would expect that is going to stream from the Performance Center or somewhere in Florida where they're taping their shows. So that's what we know right now. And guess what? That right now that's just a rumor. I know there's a lot of open windows for people to post information that is not legitimate. And wrestling has already had that. We've already had a lot of different stuff like that. And there's times when WrestleZone, we go with what's out there. It's reported, but sometimes it's not confirmed. And so we have to have verifiable sources and all that good stuff. And obviously our friends at many other outlets are doing for it as well. My prayers, all the positive energy I can send, all the different people that are dealing with this in different parts of the world. I know someone recently this week who's been affected by it. And you could be affected by it, but not having it in terms of your job and your life. But I appreciate you supporting this show. That keeps Robert and I going. It keeps everyone at WrestleZone going. All right, and thank you for doing that. Go donate to charities in your neighborhood. There's a couple out there. All right, you don't have to donate a lot of money. A little bit helps out people. The bar that I wanted to be at on Friday night for the past 2 months, I can't go to it, but you know what I can do? I can buy a gift card, and they got a beer waiting for me when this thing's all done. So let's just think of those good times. Continue to watch some wrestling. I'm going to watch some WWE Network when I'm done right here. Robert, you're going to watch some wrestling. And when we watch wrestling, we can debate about how evil that man in Sanford, Connecticut is. He's evil. He's only doing this because he's evil, Robert. The internet told me he's evil, so he has to be evil.
That's great logic, Kevin. You know, like I'm so impressed with you every day.
You sarcastic son of a bitch.
But you know what? When you're watching wrestling, forget about the evil empire. Mm-hmm. Forget about the virus.
Mm-hmm.
Pop on the network. Pop on YouTube. There's tons of great quarantine content out there. But whatever you're doing, just keep a smile on your face and enjoy wrestling.
Take care, everybody.